right, so we're kicking it off with the Paul Jr. podcast, and just me and my lovely wife, Rachael. We've been putting some clips out on social in this sort of format lately, and it seems like people are really responding in a positive way. So we just put it out there for people to ask questions that they have, and we figured we'd just have some conversations. We realize that the audience, you know, after all these years of American Chopper, that the audience really, they want to hear more about the show. And there's so much to talk about, honestly, that we haven't talked about. It's almost a little overwhelming, because when you think about how many episodes and for how many years we were on television, 179 episodes, 1 hour.
1 hour, yeah.
And I don't think, that's not even counting specials.
I was going to say specials and build-offs and everything.
In preparation for this today, though, I got up this morning and I thought, let me watch episode 1, because I never watch these episodes, right? I mean, I never, right? We don't watch the show.
I mean, we used to watch them when they would first come out, just to make sure that our client was like portrayed correctly.
Right.
Like that would be it.
Right. That's it. So most of the show, we watched the night of the show and then never again.
Yeah.
So I got up this morning, I said, well, maybe we could do some conversations, me and you, about like the first episode, because that was such a long time ago, right? But I couldn't find it. I could find every season, starting with the Black Widow, but I couldn't find the Jet Bike, and I couldn't find the Cody Project, which preceded the first episode of the series, The Black Widow.
Okay,
right?
so that would be considered what then? The pilot?
It's the pilot. It's the original pilot. Yep, 2 pilots, I think. Well, I don't know if it's 2 pilots. Yeah, I don't know. I don't really know what they call it. But so I just watched the first half of The Black Widow, because The Black Widow's 2 parts, right?
Yeah.
It's the fab and all of that stuff, and then the assembly and the unveil is the second part. And I have to tell you, I smile the entire time when I'm watching the show. I mean, it's like, I can't believe what I'm watching. It's the weirdest thing. I feel like this morning I became a fan of American Chopper. I know that sounds weird, right? But like, I'm watching someone else on that screen, because it was 25 years ago, maybe not quite, but a little over 20 years ago. And I was such a different person back then. I mean, I thought different. I looked different. I talked different. My father, we were all younger, you know? And then, so I just watched that first episode and I was just kind of blown away by it. I really felt like, wow, I kind of really see what everyone loves about it. I know that sounds weird, but I feel like maybe it's taken me over 20 years to kind of step back and have that perspective.
Yeah,
you know
that appreciation for it, yeah.
Yeah, appreciation for something that was really ultimately groundbreaking. And then just seeing my father, you know, big, and just him and our dynamic at the time, which really hasn't been since the early days of the show, right?
Yeah.
Because we parted ways in 08, so we had all those couple first seasons, right? Maybe 5 seasons where we had that dynamic, and eventually we parted ways. And it was a little sad because, man, I kind of missed that dynamic, because even though we argued, then the next day we'd come to work and it would be like nothing ever happened.
Yeah,
and
especially early on like that.
Early on like that, it was like that. And, you know, we had fun, and, you know, we're leaving the shop and we both back out of the shop going crazy, you know, squealing tires, and then I smash into him, then we hook up to the bumper, then I rip his bumper off, and we're like, it's stuff like that that we did all the time. And it made me really miss that time period.
Yeah.
And it's that was probably 2000, almost 22 years ago. So I look at that and I'm like, oh my gosh, where did time go? And look at all these baby faces.
Right.
And Vin's doing an interview. It's me and Vin most of the show.
Yeah.
He's doing an interview and he's like, I've been working here for 3 months now.
Oh my gosh.
So he had just started to work for us. And our dynamic was great. Mikey wasn't even in the first Black Widow episode, so Mikey hadn't even come into the fold yet, you know? Anyways, I just thought, what a phenomenal thing to watch us. And here I am, I'm creating the Black Widow and I'm watching all the steps. And it's really interesting because I just look at that bike all the time and know what I did. But when you go back and look at it,
you're like watching your thought process in real time.
Yeah. And I'm like, wow, it looks pretty. It's looking pretty legit, man. Yeah, all the fabrication and, you know, the banter that everyone loves so much. I mean, the dynamic, the back and forth, and then my father's got to get a root canal, so he's got to go to the dentist, and that's half the show is just him complaining about having to go to the dentist.
Now I feel like I need to watch it.
Oh, you have to watch it. I feel like you are probably not familiar with most of the episodes,
Probably
especially
not.
those.
Early on, no.
Probably those first 3 seasons are really kind of raw and original. And I was 26.
Yeah.
I was half my age now, 26, 27.
Yeah.
But it's just so amazing. That's one episode. There's another 179.
It'd be really funny to have Hudson watch that.
I know. I think he would like that first
think
one,
he would.
especially since we're building that bike, and there weren't as many characters at the time.
Right.
We had me. It was me, Vin, my father. In that episode, we had a bunch of other guys, mechanics and stuff like that, that everyone's familiar with, but the core was really focused on us. And I think he would probably like it because he likes that process stuff where you're building something. So early on during the show, the very first episode we had thought was a failure. We had filmed it. We took 6 weeks to do an episode. It got edited. The producer on the ground edited out all the fights, and it almost didn't even make the show. Right? I mean, it almost didn't even.
It would have been a completely different show.
It would have been a completely different show. And then the main producer, Craig Pelagian, saw it, freaked out. They put all the fights back in.
Right, which is unheard of, really.
Unheard of. But I think that's what Craig saw. Well, I don't know what Craig saw because he just saw a picture of us on a website. It was a picture of a picture on a website. So he had some intuition. I feel like there was some divine intervention, let's be honest, because our show is so groundbreaking and no one had ever seen anything quite like that before on television. So, right out of the gate, when we saw those fights that first night, we came in the next day and we were kind of devastated, me and my father. We really were. We felt like that we had worked for a couple years to be taken seriously in an industry that's very high rev testosterone, egos, and we were doing okay in that space. We were newcomers. And then our big opportunity for television and the show airs and we're fighting.
And you feel like you blew it.
We felt like we blew it in the worst possible way. I remember we went to the back of the shop where there was an open trailer where we used to keep stuff, and we just sat on it, and we literally sat there like this, like head in hands.
Yeah.
And we thought that was it, that we're ruined. All this work was for nothing. And by 4 o'clock that day, all these emails started rolling in. And it was crazy how positive people were. And then by 5 o'clock, the ratings came in. We had the highest ratings of the night. So then we were like, maybe this isn't so bad. And that's really when things took off,
So you guys were filming the show. The ratings came in. Everything did well that first night. When did you realize that it was a success?
I feel like probably that after the first episode, even though the morning after it aired, we were disappointed because we felt like we looked stupid, frankly.
Yeah.
Although we thought it was good. We were on TV. That was a good thing. But
but you want to be taken seriously.
We didn't feel like we looked serious enough, and think about it, again, I've said this a million times, I was expecting Bob Vila.
Right.
Polished.
Edited.
Look how nice our product is without any of the blowout fights, back and forth, you're an idiot, that type of stuff. So really, it wasn't even until So that first episode aired, and we got a lot of good feedback. Discovery loved it. The ratings, everybody loves numbers, right?
Yeah,
so
right.
the numbers were there. And that night was like a testosterone night. There were some biker build-offs, which were very popular back then. And I think there was something else on that night. And our show did the best.
Like a Motor Monday.
It was like a motor, whatever. Yeah. They were starting something. And so obviously the next day we got the call and, a conversation started. Everyone was pretty excited. And we just kept filming. Mm-hmm. And so, man, I'll tell you, it's funny because we were negotiating our terms with Discovery for a series.
Oh, so you didn't have a contract when you first
No,
started?
we didn't have a contract with Discovery.
Right.
But the content was coming, and they knew they had a tiger by its toe
Yeah,
with
but then
American
they had to
Chop.
lock you up.
They had to lock us up.
But you had to agree to that.
Yeah, and we knew we were kind of hot. And by like maybe the 6th episode, we still didn't have a contract.
Oh, wow.
And so panic was setting in, I think.
Right.
They were, and you got to remember, Discovery really wasn't dealing with talent at the time.
Right.
So,
Well, there was nothing set before you to follow. It was
right.
all new.
They were mostly animals and things of that nature. Basically, they had Steve Irwin at the
Right.
time. He was their big talent, and that's where it rested. So we came in, and they didn't really know what to do with us from that perspective, and we were difficult. We were very difficult at the time. We were like
really?
straight out of the steel business,
Yeah.
didn't care, and that translated. We had that kind of New York attitude.
Yeah.
And so I think we were 6 episodes in, did not have a contract, and they tried to position it as most networks and production companies do. They wanted a piece of our business.
Right.
We were like, no, we've been doing this for years. You're not getting any of it. And we knew, like every time we sat down to negotiate and we didn't get anywhere, we knew that they wanted it more and more, and it became
Right.
very apparent that they were willing to do.
They didn't stop filming. They kept
They never stopped filming.
Right. Yeah.
So we're like, well, we were in the driver's seat big
Right.
time. And so ultimately they gave up and they just said, okay, fine. American Chopper's the brand anyways, not Orange County Choppers.
Right.
Because the name of the show is American Chopper.
Right. Well, that's what they assumed.
That's what they assumed.
Yeah.
But we had already been wearing the gear.
Yeah.
Well, this is my bobblehead from PJD, but we were already wearing the OCC logo,
Right.
and we were
Yeah,
reinforcing
yeah.
it. So when the show started to really take off, what really sold was the authenticity. It was my red hat, the shirts, my father's cutoff sleeves, and it was our logo.
Yes.
Everybody wanted Orange County Choppers, everything. And American Chopper was a brand, but it was like a sub-brand. They didn't know that because there was no precedent for it.
Right.
Usually the name of the show has all the strength.
Yes.
But in this case, it wasn't so. So ultimately, we kept our brand, so Discovery didn't get anything of ours. And then in the long run, from a licensing standpoint, and this is crazy, they had to bring us in and give us a piece of American Chopper so that we would support that brand
Right.
to keep that going. So we ruined it for everybody. Not by design,
Yeah.
but it just worked out that
Right.
way. Like everyone who came after us, no, they locked everyone up.
Yep.
And probably would be considered a
More
normal
standard.
contract. Right.
Yeah.
We got 100% everything OCC and like half of American Chopper.
Right.
Which was pretty serious. And we supported it,
Yeah.
Pretty unique.
Yeah, in the early days, so I feel like your father was really well known for his facial hair, and so were you.
Yes.
Right?
Yep.
And that has obviously evolved over the years, but I feel like that's how you're very recognizable.
Yeah, I think so. Certainly my father's Fu Manchu or whatever handlebar mustache was it was very Hulk Hogan-esque, right? People
Big
really
character.
Big character, big arms, big personality. And, it's funny, my father, I have to say this just because we're having this conversation about mustaches and it's reminded me, he was such a dominant, prolific character in the TV world. And when I watch those episodes, as much as I realize the appreciation people have for me and my role in it, and I think it was critical because you needed to have the dynamic for the success. But when I look at my father's character and what he brought to the table, it was invaluable.
He's such a huge personality.
Such a huge personality. And I think he's kind of unappreciated in the world of television and really what he's done for reality TV because think about it. We pre-exist all reality television as we know it today. We were the pioneers in that. Now, did we set out to be that? No, we did not set out to be that. We just became that, right? And it went on for a very long time. And to be honest with you, it was really driven heavily by my father's personality and his persona and his attitude and his mannerisms and the things he said. And I feel like when I watch the show, it's much appreciated. I'm like, man, this guy,
I feel like the dynamic too between personalities, like your father is such a big personality and very big and loud, and then you come in like as the creative, and then
Right.
Mikey just comical relief, kind of always like breaking it up, the tension, especially between the two of you. It's just such an interesting dynamic.
It is. And it was a dynamic that not only the fans loved, but it actually made the show work on the ground from a logistics standpoint. Because me and my father would be going at it, and Michael would come in, and he would, because he's like the middle child-ish, he had that comic relief, which would start to like, he had a way of like defusing situations. He was very good at that. And it translated not only to the audience at home, but it translated to make things possible on the ground. So here you have another character from the show. And when you talk about like character and dynamic in a show, what a special balance of people. And even all the ancillary characters after me, Mikey, and my father were critical. And we had so much characters on the show, and all of which people cared about in some capacity or another, and some more than others. You don't ever see that anymore in television. I mean, there's some shows out there where you get some characters, but not in the dynamic situation we were in. You have shows where people are like, they're in Alaska and then they're in South Dakota, and they're all, but never in one shop, all in one space, coexisting and creating really phenomenal television. And the best part is just being themselves. Mm-hmm. We were just us.
Organically too, even like Vin.
Totally organic.
Yeah.
People love that. We didn't know what we were doing. Nobody was trying to be an actor. Everybody just showed up and interacted, and the world developed a massive appetite for it. Matter of fact, when the show hit, it seemed like we struck a chord that no one knew needed to be struck, and it really created something spectacular and special. And I don't think the show, because it was so far ahead of its time, I don't think the show's ever gotten the credit it deserves, or the characters for that matter. And I don't care for me for that sake, but
looking back at it now, you can see it.
Oh,
for what
big
it
time.
Is. Yeah.
And when I bring up my father like that, I think like I'm looking at him, I'm watching him this morning, and I'm thinking like, at the time I couldn't appreciate him because we had this dynamic. We had issues with each other, like every father-son does. So I wasn't able to really see it in that capacity. But now, like I said, I'm watching that show. That's a different person. Those people were different people. So I'm
including yourself,
including myself. Yeah. I'm watching a different show. You know what I mean? I'm watching a show that yes, I was a part of, but it's not me anymore, right?
Yeah.
And so I'm able to sit back and appreciate it, maybe the way the audience has appreciated it from the beginning.
What about your little language? I feel like you had this words and all sorts of terms for everything that you guys had, like your own little verbiage.
Especially me and Vin.
Oh, forget it.
Me and Vin would just make up words, and then they would just become the words that we use to like reference each other. And the fun part about me and Vin is he started with us real early on. We traveled a lot together. So me and him we had a big bus, and we'd have this, giant trailer full of bikes, and we'd be going all over the country to all the major bike shows. And it'd be me and him up front. Everyone else would be chilling in the back. He'd mostly be driving, and we would just be cranking down the highway through the whole night, listen to music, having conversations. And so we just had like a nice closeness. He was so well-rounded. And I, by that time, was very mechanically inclined and hyper creative. So his mechanical ability and my creativity in combination, that won for years and years and years. And then as time went by, we started to introduce technology, which just made us better and better. We had a 5-axis water jet.
I feel like Vin was really good with technology also, like machining and everything like that. So he really incorporated that into what you guys were doing. He
wasn't just like some backyard mechanic. He had an aptitude for learning technology as well, which made him super well-rounded. Then when he came to us, he became a fabricator, just picks up stuff easy. And man, me and him were very formidable, just me and him. Then you bring Rick into the fold and you get your sheet metal guy, Cody, who could pretty much, do anything, even at a young age, and he was very motivated. And so we just had a crack team. There was like nothing we couldn't do if we all kind of put our minds to it.
How long before the show did you know Vin? You guys went to school together?
Yeah, me and Vin, I knew Vin from when I was real young. His father, Mr. DiMartino, John.
Mr. D.
Mr. D, God rest his soul. What a great guy.
Mr. D.
What a great guy. Yeah, his father early on had a snowmobile shop in Montgomery. And growing up, my father always had snowmobiles. And I remember, because I rode a snowmobile actually before I even rode a bicycle. Before I was able to ride a bicycle, I was riding a snowmobile.
How old was that?
I was pretty young.
Yeah.
I was pretty young. And so we used to bring the sleds to Mr. D, and he had a sled shop, right? And so I kind of like think that's the first time I ever met Vin. We had to be little kids, like little, like elementary school age. And then through the years, we just became friends. And, you know, in like our high school years, Vin used to have like the fastest Camaro in the area. And we would go around and race people, go to Middletown and like drag race light to light. We had so much fun back then. You know, it was like I remember because we would listen to K104, which was our local radio station. And I remember listening to Vanilla Ice. You know, that was like, it was on like the top 40 for like ever, that song. 90s. Yeah. And so that could date whenever, and we would just cruise around. That's what you did. You just drove around. We go to Middletown. And we had a lot of fun. We had quads. He had a quad. He had motorcycle squads. We'd run back and forth behind the school. And so we just had a tremendous amount of fun. He was always working on stuff, Ben, because he grew up. He was always helping his father. So, and his father was very mechanical as well. So like he learned a lot from his dad. His brother's a great mechanic. You know, the whole family's like that. But yeah, we had a tremendous amount of fun. And a matter of fact, he was really good friends with Jack Moskwa.
Okay.
And so me, Jack, and Vin used to hang out all the time, going way back. And so, you know, through the years, we just had a good friendship. And then when the show took off, we realized we were going to need more help. And that's when I called Vin. He was working for a friend of ours. And at the time, I think he was being underutilized, and I don't think he was terribly happy. And I think he was ready for like a new challenge. And certainly what we were doing was exciting and real perfect for a well-rounded guy like Vinny. And I was like, hey, you want to come on board? And he did. And huge asset right out of the gate. I mean, he really was a great asset. And he picked up fabrication and all that type of stuff really fast because he was so mechanical already, you know. He was so mechanically inclined. And that was it. And the best part about it is we were friends for so many years before that. We were hanging out for years just on a social side.
Yeah, so you already had your banter down and all of that.
We already had our banter down, and it just increased from there. I mean, we would call each other all kinds of weird names on the show, and I would call him Pinchy or Pincher, and he would call me Pinch, and just because one time we were talking about how his brother used to pinch off cigarettes. He'd like go out and smoke and pinch it off, and then that just became a thing, and then we became Pincher.
Yeah.
Just all kinds of weird nicknames, and we had so much fun. We really had, I think me and him probably had the most fun together on the show because we just got along from so many years prior, and then when it came down to it, we're very similar in personalities. We're pretty mellow. I'm hyper creative. I had all these ideas, and he had a great way of executing them, and he had his own ideas. So it was a very complimentary situation, and our banter people really loved. You know, I
feel like that was like some of my favorites. So later on, when he came to work for you at PJD, when we would travel, I feel like that was like some like the best times.
We had the best times.
So funny.
Going out eating.
Buffalo chip.
Oh my gosh, having some drinks, cruising around on scooters.
Yeah. RV.
The RV. I know. So much fun. Yeah, Vin's a great guy, and I miss working with him.
Yeah.
You know why? Because I think if we were to do something together, that dynamic, that never goes anywhere. We even when we see each other, you know, it's like that never changes. You cannot see someone for 5 years and then you roll right back into that situation. It would be fun, honestly, to get people back together.
Yeah.
I'd love to do something
some
with
project.
him. Yeah. You know, when we came back in 17 and 18, we came back for those 2 seasons. I called him and I asked him, but you know, he had already gotten established in his own business, and it just wasn't something that he was able to do. He just couldn't do it. He didn't have enough manpower at the time, and you know, his business really depended on him, and he was doing really good. So he wasn't able to come on board for those 2 seasons, but man, I would love to do something with him. Not just get together, but maybe build something, you know.
Who are some of the I won't say your favorite, but highlights, celebrities that you've met throughout the years?
Well, you know, American Chopper really gave us an opportunity to meet a lot of celebrities. You know, not just ones that came on the show that we built bikes for, but gosh, man, we did so much stuff in California through the years. You know, yeah, we were stationed in Montgomery, and I think that was very helpful for keeping us all together and grounded. But we would go to California all the time and, you know, go into places and see all celebrities and meet people and do awards things where we gave awards away. It was pretty, back in, I'd say the first 5 years of the show, it was pretty intense like that. Bike rides. But I think as far as the show goes, well, a real fun one for me was meeting Russell Crowe. When we went to Australia, we did a special. We built a bike for Australia.
Tourism.
Yep, for the tourism board. And while we were there, we hung out with Russell Crowe, which was pretty cool, meeting him, hanging out. We went and checked out. He owned a rugby team, the Rabbitohs, which we ended up building, I think, 2 bikes for that. And we really hit it off with him. We went on this bike ride up in Coffs Harbor, where he lives. His parents live up there. He's got a ranch. Beautiful ride, just out, kind of very mountainous terrain, just absolutely gorgeous. Australia is spectacular. And it was great. End of the day, went back to his ranch. And then we were walking through, and he had like an outbuilding, and in there, and even his grounds, he has all props from all these movies, crazy stuff. And then we go into this one building, man, and there's all these props, and it's just a really cool like man cave, you know. And I remember we went in there, and I was looking around, and I noticed something over in the corner, and I was like, man, I was like, wait a minute, what? And it was the Gladiator helmet. He had the Gladiator helmet from the movie. Yeah. And I was like, dude, tell me that's the helmet from the movie. And he's like, yeah, I took it with me. And apparently he loves to keep all that stuff. And he said, put it on. And sure enough, man, I put that thing on. Because Gladiator to me is like, I think it's one of the best movies ever. Yeah. And it was so good when I put that thing on. I was like, who gets to put the Gladiator helmet on? Nobody does, right? Nobody's putting that thing on. And it was a really great experience. And we ended up staying at his house, which was really fun. And then we went out to a bar that night with him. We had a really good time with Russell. And then later on, we built the 2 bikes, and we did a whole unveil. And so, Russell Crowe was a great guy to hang out with. Very for an Australian, he's kind of like a New Yorker to me, you know. And that's why I see Australians. They're kind of like, you know, back then we had like a little edge to us because we were iron workers from upstate New York, kind of unassuming, and I feel like Australians kind of have that rough and tumbled way about them, and so we just hit it off great with them. So that was one of the funner experiences we had, and I feel like, I don't know, man, I feel like that and Braveheart are like my 2 favorite movies, you know, like Gladiator and Braveheart. Yeah. Probably for the same reasons, you know. But yeah, Russell Crowe, great guy. He was just here. We just saw him in New Jersey. Went to Asbury. He's at was it Garden? What's the name of the place? Oh, Stone Pony. Yeah, but his tour is called something. Oh,
Outdoor Garden Party.
Outdoor Garden Party. So we just went and saw him. That was great. He sang. Yeah. Guy's talented, man. I know. Really talented guy. So he was one of the, for me as like a young person, definitely like to me top like 5 or 6 actors in my mind, you know. Yeah. for my generation, I guess you would say, you know. What are some of your favorite celebrity encounters?
I would have to say my favorite one was probably when Julian Lennon came down to the shop.
Yeah.
Yeah, to see that little mini bike. I thought that was really neat.
Yeah, Julian's a great guy. That was a really unique situation, huh?
Completely. Yeah.
Yeah, I remember. So for background on that, radio station. We were listening to some XM radio station,
yeah, we heard
right?
something about John Lennon's motorcycle is coming up for auction, right?
That's
overseas.
Right. Yep.
And we're like, man, we should really keep an eye on that thing. You know, like it was like going to be months later, right?
Yep.
And then what? My dad called. Didn't he call and mention something like, hey, there's this auction coming up? We're like, oh yeah, we heard about that.
Yeah, I feel like we forgot.
We did forget, yes.
And then your father heard about it, and it was like a day away.
Yes.
So I called the auction company. Registered everything.
Yep.
Me and you came up with a number we agreed upon.
We agreed on our ceiling. Like we went on.
Yeah, we did.
Yeah, like this is like as high as we're willing to go.
Yep.
Yeah.
And man, we bid on it, and I remember I was on the phone. You were at home, right?
Hudson was a baby.
Hudson was a baby. I was on the phone bidding because
I was trying to like listen to the auction because I couldn't be at the shop because I was with Hudson.
Yeah.
Trying to figure out, you know, where you were at with that.
Yeah, and I remember the bidding was going pretty heavily, and
people were bidding from all over the world too. So that was the thing. Like,
You're
we were
right.
bidding from America. People were bidding from overseas, all over the place.
Yes, China,
Yep.
Japan, Australia. People were bidding on that bike. So this was, for context, this was the only motorcycle that John Lennon ever owned.
Yes.
And so, being that we're so motorcycle centric and collect stuff, right?
Yeah.
Thought, well, this would be a good one to own.
Yeah.
And I think it is. We still own the bike.
Yeah.
But when we got it in the crate, we thought it would be nice to have Julian come out.
Well, I think a little fun fact is that obviously we ended up winning it, but we won it for the exact amount.
That's right.
The exact dollar amount that we said we would not go over. So
That's
that was
right.
your last bid, and no one bid above that.
That's
So
right.
we won it for the exact amount
And
that we had.
we broke some sort of crazy record for that bike in particular,
it's
for
a
that
Honda,
style.
It's like a Honda Monkey.
Yeah, it's a
right?
Honda
So-
Monkey bike. It's not a big deal
Yeah.
bike, except for the fact that it was John Lennon's.
Right.
You know, which is kind of a big deal, I think.
Yeah.
And then,
Yeah, they crated it up, shipped it over,
and it sat in a crate.
and we received it, and you wouldn't open it.
I wouldn't open it.
You refused to open it. Yeah.
Yeah, I wouldn't open it. I called my friend Timothy White, who's good friends with Julian Lennon. And then Timothy, I knew, he called me back. I told him what I had. I said, look, this is what I think I had. And I felt a little awkward because I know Julian through the years has really tried to buy a lot of stuff back that meant something to him
Right.
from his father. Even I think letters his father wrote him, which ended up out in circulation.
Yeah.
He tried to get back. And
there's also like a famous picture of Julian on the back of the bike.
Yes,
with John.
that's
Yeah.
right. And that's the picture we saw, and he was 5 years old. Julian was 5 years old at the time. So we thought it would be nice to invite him out to the shop before we even took it out of the crate, knowing what we knew about it. And sure enough, through my friend Timothy White, he hooked it up. Julian was having a gallery at the Leica.
Yep, in New York City.
In New York City,
Yep,
and one
so
of the
photography.
Yeah, photography. And so meanwhile he was up, he came down to the shop, and sure enough, man, we pulled that crate out, pulled all the screws out of it, threw the top off, put the sides down, rolled that thing out, and he was the first one to go in there. He grabbed those handlebars, he wheeled that thing out, sat right down on it, and it was you could see it meant a lot to him, you know.
Yeah.
Because the bike was something they did together. It wasn't something that John Lennon had. It was something that they did together as a father and son. And I thought that was real special because, you know, I thought, well, man, you know, as far as father-son teams go, it's a pretty famous father-son team, and I knew what me and my father did for all these years, so I feel like I related to Julian in a lot of ways.
Well, he also said that they would ride it from estate to estate because they had neighboring estates, right?
That's right. Yeah, he said that they would ride that bike from their house to George's house and Ringo's house all the time. And he said, that's the bike that made me fall in love with motorcycles, which I thought was an amazing statement, you know? And it was just it was a great day. What a great person. Julian just immediately, I felt like he was like my brother.
Yeah.
I don't know how to explain it.
He is like a sweetheart of a
He's
person.
a sweet-spirited man. And, you know, because he's John Lennon's son, he really looks like his dad. So it was like, it was an interesting thing because I've always been a Beatles fan, and it was probably as close as you'd ever get to John Lennon. I'm sure that gets tiring for him, you know, because come on, you know, you got to do your own thing. But it's just what it was, and what a great day. And my mother got to come down and meet Julian, and
she was very excited.
Very excited. We had some great pictures, and
rode the bike. So remember, I went into my office, and I'm like, I know I have like the folder wherever, because it was months that we had it, and I found the keys, and it started right up.
Fired right up. Julian drove it around the shop, which really made it even more of a special experience, and I really appreciate that he spent the time and came down. And you know, the one thing I know about him is Julian was very close with his mother. And so that was a conversation that we had, and it's, you know, it's just, I really appreciate that time we spent together. Really, really great. So that's a great, I think that's a really good, as far as well-known people or celebrities, I think he's definitely,
stands out.
He stands out just from just a good-hearted, good guy person standpoint, for sure.
So I feel like when people come in here, they're always asking about the bikes, and we have a handful of them in here, but not all of them.
Yeah.
And a lot of people are always asking about the anti-venom bike, which I think is interesting, just because that was the first bike that you did when you started your own company.
Yep.
Really,
yep.
right?
Yeah. Yeah, so like the web series really started with the Spider-Man bike, and then the Black Widow, which everyone really knows from the first episode of the series. And then from there, I did what they call a Junior Dream bike, which is this black and green, like crazy looking bike. And then I left it alone for years, the whole web theme. And then when me and my father parted ways, we had that 1 year non-compete. And then, you know, when we started when we were able to build bikes, that was the first bike I thought to build, was another web theme, because it had been so many years since I really did that. And that's...
If you remember at the time, you didn't have the Black Widow back.
No, I didn't.
So you were building your own
web theme bike. You're right. I didn't even think about that.
Yeah.
You're right. I had not gotten that bike back from my father, because we were in that lawsuit and it was not settled. And it wasn't till it got settled that I was able to get the Black Widow back. So you're right. I was trying to maybe recreate some... I don't know.
It was like the counterpart.
Yeah.
Like,
and you know, it was what, 2009?
It was,
And the economy was bad, and people weren't spending money on marketing, because that's really what we're selling. And so we opened up a shop, filled it full of equipment, and didn't have any clients.
Well, that was the thing. We're like, okay, now we need a client.
Right.
Didn't have one, so what?
We got to start building. We got to start building a bike. So I decided to build that anti-venom, and then, like, pretty much
right away.
Pretty much, we started building that, and then
you got a client. So you're building two bikes.
That's right. Geico came along, and that was so great, because, you know, as much as I love to build motorcycles, it's not really a hobby.
No.
You know, we need the clients. So. And then that was it, man. You know, that was, so I really, the anti-venom was the first bike. I think I'm going to bring that here.
You should.
Yeah, I think I'm going to bring it down here. I think I'm going to switch some bikes out, because he's been here for a little while now, you know.
In New York, how many more bikes do we have there?
So in New York, we probably have another, maybe eight bikes. 8 bikes. I probably got a total of maybe like 15 bikes, something like that, right? But really from the show, only a couple in New York. I have I don't have a lot of bikes from the show.
No.
I have the Ninja Turtles bikes that I did for the Ninja Turtles movie for Michael Bay, and that was really cool. And then I have the Cubics bike, which was an episode, which was like that company was defunct. They were a cloud-based company. They were just, I think they missed the curve.
The Jets bike, not to be confused with the Jet bike.
That's right. I have the New York Jets bike, which I got with the Yankees bike, which I still have to kind of restore, which would probably be a fun project. It would be a fun project to restore that, just because it got beat up just like the Yankees bike. Most people don't know that.
No.
Yeah, and then just a handful of other ones from the past, mostly, you know. Yeah. So, I mean, I got a handful of stuff. I got the car from the show, the Camaro.
The Camaro. Yep.
That we built on an episode.
Right.
I wish I had more stuff from the show. I'd like to have it all back.
I know.
Because I feel like the older I get, the more I think about legacy, and the more I can have of my stuff, the better it would be. But at the same time, it's really good that some of these things are, like the 9/11 Memorial bikes at the 9/11 Memorial. We got a bike we did the bike for the Statue of Liberty. That's at the Statue of Liberty, which is kind of cool. Yep. We got the bike in the Microsoft Museum, and we got some cool bikes. I think the Blizzard Entertainment ones that we did for World of Warcraft are out there. Those are really serious killer.
So I feel like a very common question that we always get, especially when people come in, is about television. Like, is there any future for that again?
Yeah, so I guess we could talk about it a little bit more now. I mean, we're in a development deal. With a production company. We have filmed our sizzle for what's next.
Yep.
It looks pretty good. We got a name, which we will not divulge. We will not reveal at this time. And I think it's a great concept.
Yeah.
I think it will have some flavor of American Chopper, because how can it not? We're in it. But I think it would be like the kind of 2.0 version. Maybe not to recreate that, because American Chopper is its own thing, right?
I think it's more of like where you are at now.
Right. Which I think people really appreciate where we're at right now. I think a lot of our audience has grown up with us, has gone through those years of, high school, college, marriage, kids, family.
Yeah.
And they're kind of been in lockstep with us for all these years. And I think people would be really interested in seeing a little bit more of kind of like what we're doing now, in a kind of a television content way, more on a daily.
Well, I think also because I feel like over the years you've kind of diversified. With how you do marketing, right?
Yep.
So it's always the bikes. They're always like kind of like the staple, but there's other elements that you've brought into the fold.
Yep. And I think we could showcase a lot of that. I think people would be really interested in seeing our dynamic more. I think we are a creative powerhouse together. And I think we can tackle some projects that people would not even realize that we're capable of. And then we could bring our handsome son in to the fold.
Learn the family trade.
Yeah, that's right. And I just think it would be really good. It would be like it would basically be like the new Teutul's. That's the way I would position it. Doing a lot of the things people like, but also a lot of new things, and maybe a lot more dynamic. Right? A little bit, not so just motorcycles, but like a mix of things, just some personal stuff. Follow us along on our journey of life, which has been an interesting one, especially since
our location changed.
Yep, especially since our location change. I think there's a lot of things that we haven't experienced here yet, especially, we still have a lot going on in New York.
I feel like we're right in like the thick of it, like the transition, physically, like to a new location, looking for a new shop, looking to build it out, looking to really transfer everything over to this area. Yeah,
especially a shop. So I think we can bring people on a journey with us that apparently they're interested in, because the social media, what we're doing right here, people are keeping us, having these conversations because the interest is so high. So I really do believe that television is going to happen sooner than later for us. But in the meantime, we're just going to keep doing this.
Does pineapple belong on pizza? The question everyone wants to know.
I say yes.
I say yes too.
I like a little pineapple and ham, a little Hawaiian.
Hudson would say yes too. He loves pineapple pizza.
He does.
Why is it so wrong?
I just think people can't get the sweet and savory down. Sometimes they just struggle with that, which I understand. I feel like when I was younger, like much younger, I thought it was weird to have anything sweet on anything that was supposed to be savory. So I think that's the conundrum. But I think as you get older, you should like pineapple on pizza.
You should at least try it.
You should at least try it. I mean, for me, like, really good plain pizza's nice. You know, just like a good slice.
I like kitchen sink. Throw it all on there.
You do? Mm-hmm. Yeah, me, I like plain. I like sausage. I like some mushrooms sometimes. I like piping hot pizza.
You like pizza hot in like the weirdest way I've ever seen.
I like food hot.
You like to burn your mouth.
I don't like to burn my mouth, but I choose to burn my mouth.
Every single time.
Every single time.
Yeah.
Yeah, no, I like it like, that's why I like to pick up the pizza, because I have a slice in the car.
Yep.
Or maybe two.
On the way home with it.
On the way home, that's right. Those are my 2 slices, pretty much.
Yeah.
But yeah, you know, it's, and all the different places like around here all make pizza different.
We have not even hit half of them.
I know. We should go on like some sort of
pizza tour.
Pizza pilgrimage.
Paul's pizza pilgrimage.
I like it. We're foodies, right?
Well, it was just our anniversary.
It was our anniversary. 14 years, August 20th.
That's right.
And we got married down here.
Yeah.
2010. So easy for me to remember.
I know, such a round number.
Yeah. And we ate at our favorite place on the island. I'm not ashamed to say it.
I'm not afraid to say it at all. It's my favorite.
Yeah, the Gables.
Oh my gosh.
And I got to tell you, so we had a house in Napa for what, 9 years? Mm-hmm. And that Gables is so good, man.
It's amazing.
It's so good. I mean, it's a different thing. It's a different animal. It's a whole, it's so elevated, the experience there.
It's an experience. That's what it is.
It really is, man. I mean, I had this bone-in filet. Remember that thing?
Yeah.
This bone-in filet was that tall, that, like,
and
that
it has
round.
Like this little, like.
Had this thin bone down one side, and it was cooked. It was cooked to such perfection. It was fantastic. It had spiced carrots on top. I mean, I don't even know what that is.
Oh, your crab cakes had spiced carrots.
Oh, you're right. The crab cakes had spiced carrots.
Everything.
I am. Well, in my mind, it's just one
I feel like every time we go there, we're like, whoever thinks of the combinations of what is on the plate.
It was very creative.
Like if you go there, you should try everything on the plate because it's there for a reason.
You're right. And I think for most people, they would steer clear because they would think a certain thing.
Yeah.
But their taste buds aren't even ready for that place. Believe it or not, I found out I was a type 2 diabetic right after the first build-off. The build-off one.
Yes.
Because I remember we were practicing, we were doing these, going out on stage
for like
very
2 days.
High
Stress.
High stress. And I remember feeling like, coming out of the elevator and feeling like I wasn't really eating because I was nervous. And
it was live, like not like live, like pre-recorded, like live, like if you fall, and
right, like real
it.
live television, not like when you go on Lennon or Letterman or
like
any of these talk shows. Right, live with a with a delay.
Yeah.
No, this was direct to television live, and I remember feeling like woozy coming out of the elevator, and I was like, man, what's going on with me? I just felt really weird. I'm like, I know I feel the pressure because it was so stressful, but I'm like, normally I don't feel like this. And I remember I ate a banana.
We were in the green room.
We were in the green room.
Remember?
And you were like, here, eat something.
Yeah, you don't look so good. You look like you were just out of sorts.
Yeah,
and I think that we grabbed it from the room next door.
That's right. And it was shortly after that where I was peeing all the time.
No, you were drinking juice.
Oh, I was drinking like, the V8 Splash.
Which was like...
by the gallon.
Which was like completely contributing.
I was like, I can't stop drinking this stuff.
Yeah, high sugar.
Yep. And then, man, I just felt like I don't know. I was drinking a lot, really thirsty. And I went to the urologist of all people because I was thinking I must be my bladder.
Yeah.
And they checked.
Yeah, they're like, your sugar is through the roof.
Yeah, they're like, did you eat like a lot of sugar recently? I'm like, well, not really. They're like, oh, you need to go to an endocrinologist. And this was, I was not overweight. I was not over.
There were clues, I feel like. Do you remember the whole Three Twins ice cream thing?
I do. I remember that. Yeah, Three Twins ice cream. I turned into an absolute maniac.
Ate like a whole like.
I ate a pint of this ice cream called Three Twins
Napa, which
in
is
Napa.
Phenomenal.
It's fantastic.
Oh my gosh, it's so good.
And I remember I ate a whole pint and I fell asleep and I don't know what, she turned the TV on or off or something and I woke up
in a rage.
I was like out of my mind.
I was like, what is wrong with you? I
was like, what? And that's when we started to see like the cracks of maybe there was something wrong. Sugar problems.
Was not your friend.
No, not at all. And it's just weird because I don't know. I wasn't overweight. I didn't eat that much sugar on an overall basis.
No, you were definitely like predispositioned because.
Well, whatever. I ended up with type 2 diabetes, and this was going back now 24 years. Am I wrong?
You were way off.
Oh my gosh, 14 years?
Possibly, yeah.
2010?
Yeah.
11? 13 years?
Yeah.
Whatever. I've had it for a long time, and I feel like it's been a challenge. I don't eat a lot of sugar, and I do feel like sometimes I don't eat quite the way I should. Mm-hmm. I will say.
You do exercise now.
Pickleball has really helped my blood sugar a lot because I exercise every day. So even if I'm not perfect with my diet, the amount of exercise that I put out there has really helped me. And you could see everyone says, "Oh, I'm lean. I'm like maybe 198." Mm-hmm. And honestly, I feel better at this weight than I did when I was much heavier. Yeah. Back in the American Chopper days, especially early days.
You were very young too, so you were very round faced and.
I was young and I was able to carry a lot of weight. I was like probably 225, 230 most of those years.
Like your heaviest.
Yeah, so I was stocky, and people see me now and I look completely different, but. Type 2 diabetes is something you really got to pay attention to and manage and, go to your doctor and all that kind of stuff. But I will say, honestly, like a healthy lifestyle goes a long way. You can cheat a little bit if you're exercising.
Right.
But I try and eat healthy. It's been good.
Yeah.
I'd rather not have it.
Yeah, I know.
I would eat a lot more ice cream.
Yes, I know.
But it is what it is. And I think in some ways, it's probably made me healthier, if that makes any sense, because I don't think I would probably govern my eating habits. And to be honest with you, most of my friends are not thin.
Okay.
I'm just saying at 50 years old, most people aren't saying, wow, I'm too skinny. Most people are,
right. You don't have the
less
luxury
active
of just
and more overweight.
Eating whatever you want.
Yeah, I just don't.
Yeah.
It's a
little bit more controlled.
It makes you have. Some people don't. Some people get type 2 diabetes and they don't change their eating habits, and that's really bad because you get overweight and you eat too much crap, and then you have problems with circulation, feet. There's a lot of issues with your eyes. I got to go get checked. I got to get my feet checked every 6 months, my eyes checked. I got to go through all that stuff, physicals, everything, my A1C, just to make sure that I'm not dying. When we were on the show, man, we ate everything and anything. But I was young, too. I mean,
And you drank nonstop coffee.
Nonstop coffee. And we just ate like animals. Steaks every chance we got. There was no holding back. I remember people saying, oh, you shouldn't put salt on that. It didn't matter to me at all.
That's what you do when you're in your 20s.
I was like, I'm going to worry about that later. Whoa. Now I'm worrying about it.
Yeah.
That's just how it goes, though. We had fun in our younger years, and we ate good, especially like when we would travel.
Yeah.
We would eat it. Well, quite often we would eat a lot of junk because we're on the road and you hit Wendy's or McDonald's just because that's the only food you're getting. But when we got established in certain locations, we would go to good restaurants and we would eat really well, especially when we traveled around the world. We ate at some of the better places. And in Napa, when we had a house there,
food is phenomenal.
Changed my whole life.
Yeah.
I know. The best food on the planet.
It really is.
And that's why the Gables is so good, because it reminds me of that type of food. It's different. Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, listen, I think we're going to wrap it up. But this has been fun, reminiscing and having these conversations. And I think we got to bring some guests on.
Yeah, I agree.